did you know that character was going to be as special as she is from the get-go, or is this something that happened while you were making the show?
I think as we were creating What If and writing the Captain Carter episode was such a huge treat to me because I could actually say things about feminism.
Oh, my favorite.
And a woman's place and how the world changes when a woman stays in the room. And Marvel, especially Kevin, being like, go, write it. And then during the animatic process and throughout the season, we realized Peggy's our hero. We always knew she was capable of the impossible, that she deserves the shield. But this was the first time we see her superpowered. And so she became What If's personal hero. We all love her. And I would hope beyond hope, and this is my subtle cue to Marvel, that if you ever want me to write more Peggy Carter, I am here. And you don't even have to pay me. Just give me lunch.
You go for it, AC. I would love for you to do that.
No, thank you. No, thank you. No, thank you.
Brian, I thought the action sequences were incredible.
Oh, cool.
You know?
Hello, everyone. I have returned from limbo to give you all the exciting news that the new MCU animated series What If is surprisingly really fucking dumb.
Oh shit, here we go again.
This is quite possibly the last thing I had in mind to cover on my channel, especially considering that after watching Black Widow, I was officially done with MCU content. But like a stupid moth to a flame, I came right back to Disney Plus for one more round of mind-numbing Marvel content. To be honest, I was morbidly curious about this series purely from a superficial position of, oh, that looks kind of maybe pretty cool and there are some neat ideas in there. Some of them anyway. But on the other hand, the animation looks incredibly shitty and cheap for a show that is produced by a multi-billion-dollar studio and company. I just really don't like the unnatural movements characters make, plus their plastic-looking faces. And I can see people saying in defense of this, oh, but it's animated, it's not supposed to look realistic. I am sorry, but this show is based around the existing live-action movies and characters. I expect some sort of effort to be put into the animation to emulate the look of said characters as best as possible. Especially with the budget they have. I mean, for fuck's sake, anime looks more realistic than this. So let's begin with episode 1. What if Agent Carter was the first Avenger? From the get-go, the events leading to this alternate universe seem very contrived. You see, when Steve Rogers is about to go into the super soldier pod, Dr. Erskine asks for Peggy to go sit in the booth, because they are about to conduct a very dangerous experiment where people might get hurt. But good old Peggy says,
"No, I'd prefer to stay."
And this creates the so-called branched reality. Bitch, what? No, that wasn't a genuine question. It was rhetorical. You see, in the original events from the first Avenger film, Dr. Erskine says this line as more of a sarcastic, rhetorical, hey, Agent Carter, maybe you should go wait in the booth with all of the other military personnel. You know, because it's about to get really fucking dangerous. So she's very understanding and she leaves. But here, she's just like, actually, I'm going to stay right here. And all of the other military guys who are supposed to be in the booth as well are also staying. Like, what the fuck is this? Go upstairs in the booth, you dumb fucks. You don't have a choice here. Listen to the expert scientist, please. Oh, no. My mistake. You see, this contrived shit has to happen so that the Hydra spy, who is part of the military crowd, can use his lighter bomb to blow up the test area to stop the experiment. Then he shoots Steve Rogers twice, tries to steal this formula, but then Peggy shoots him and now Steve is too injured to go through with the experiment, so now they have limited time and have to start the experiment immediately, and Peggy volunteers herself, goes into the pod, and comes out as a super soldier with a man's body. Okay, so let's talk about some retardation here with the Hydra spy first. If the goal, which is the same goal as from the first Avenger movie, is to steal the super soldier serum, why in the fuck does he attempt to blow up the area where they are running the test where the serum is also located. Hey, dumb fuck, you are about to blow up and destroy the fucking valuable serum you are tasked with retrieving for Hydra. Maybe don't blow it up? Just a thought. And the other retardation was, well, like I said previously, Steve got shot twice. But he's fine, he's okay, he just needs a cane to walk now. But he'll live. I mean, they're only bullets, right? They don't cause that much damage, you know? And no blood either. Like, 0 blood. We've got to keep this Disney friendly after all, right? Well, now we have our beefy Peggy Carter super soldier, but oh no! The big bad asshole authority military dude is very upset with this. Why? Well, duh, obviously because it's a dirty, smelly, silly girl that has the serum.
I was promised an army. I was promised peace and salvation. Instead, I get a girl.
If we get lucky, someday your blood might tell us how to make a real super soldier. Women aren't soldiers. They sure as hell don't fight on the front lines. They might break a nail.
As he clearly stated right there, this man does not respect women. This is unfortunately a new trend in the MCU where they retcon previous content and warp its events so much they will change all context of their established characters and world to further this new virtue signaling Marvel universe. Peggy Carter was a fucking agent working in the military and was one of the founders of S.H.I.E.L.D. and worked there for decades. No one gave a shit she was a woman. She was already respected by her colleagues because she was good at her job. She wasn't, quote, shouting to be seen and heard in the room. This is such a childish revisioning of the character. No more thought went into this forced conflict other than, well, she is a woman in the 1940s, so she is oppressed and is not respected, despite the fact she was. Moving on, we now get our first scene with Captain Carter. Okay, just a small thing before I get into this, but why the hell is she not called Captain Britain? Like, why not? It's a character in the comics, a man, granted, but still, and Peggy is also, you know, British, whatever. So we have this action scene where Peggy is not really acting like Peggy Carter at all. She's overly hyperactive and giddy at what she is doing, and yes, it's a very impressive display of strength she is showing. Like, very impressive. I'll get to that soon enough. But after every other thing she does, she's like, wow, that was brilliant, and haha, are you seeing this? Oh, whoops, I'm usually more covert.
That was brilliant! Let's give it another go. Are you seeing this? Oh, I'm usually a bit more covert. Where have you been all my life? This is nice. You mind if I have a go? Ow!
I mean, while I was watching this, I was thinking this is probably just a small issue in the long run, but I'm watching it just thinking to myself, Peggy, shut the fuck up. I mean, this has now become a plague in the MCU, where every single bloody Marvel protagonist has to be a snarky quipper now, regardless of their own individual personalities, or in this case, the lack of an individual personality. Just replace it with quips and snarky comments and call it a day. Then people would drink it up and call it good character writing. It's not. The action scene itself is very standard and subpar, just dumb soldiers closing the distance while holding guns. A trope I just love, by the way. And Peggy looking all cool and stuff, and she throws the shield at a bike which explodes on impact. How the fuck does that even work? So after the fight, Peggy takes away the scientist Arnim Zola, who is being transported along with the Tesseract, and Howard Stark uses the cube to power up his giant tanky World War II Iron Man suit, which Steve uses to fight in the war. Which, in my own personal, humble opinion, is a much more interesting alternate story to tell here. And so, is the implication here that Howard Stark was actually building this Iron Man suit to begin with in the first Avenger? He was just working on this all along, and he just didn't have the right power source to get it running? But in this show, because they have the Tesseract this early, which is a fucking godsend, by the way, and could end the war very quickly in favor of the US, but the United States government is seemingly absent from this story, which is fucking strange. So now I guess Stark can now power his suit, I suppose, because they have the Tesseract. Now we have Peggy, again, all by herself, very easily, beats down all of the Hydra soldiers and breaks out the 107th unit with Bucky in it. So, remember in the first Avenger when Steve Rogers went to save his friend Bucky and the 107th? He did this thing called being covert and stealthy to break out the unit and didn't just go in full frontal assault, guns blazing with no plan and very little resistance from the enemy. It was, you know, believable. I mean, for Christ's sake, look at this stupid physics-defying move from Peggy. Even as a super soldier, this is fucking ridiculous. Oh, and Peggy also blocks a fucking tank shell with her shield. Let me just remind all of you what happened to Steve Rogers' Captain America when he was shot by a mere grenade launcher in the Winter Soldier. Now we have a quick montage of Peggy, Steve, and the other soldiers beating up Hydra, with Peggy doing even more ridiculous feats of strength. And at this point, it's safe to say they have made Captain Carter a bloody superhero whose power level is on par with the likes of Iron Man or even Thor, for God's sake. And I'm not even exaggerating. Which, this power level goes completely against the established power of the super soldier serum, whereas before it was portrayed to be that a super soldier is, of course, stronger, faster, more powerful, and more agile than the average human with these abilities. Emphasis on the average. But now a super soldier is really fucking super to the point you're watching this thinking, well, what the fuck can't this person do? Like, this super soldier is apparently stronger than anyone or anything that exists in this world currently, and does everything with extreme ease. Before we approach the final act, we get the train scene, which is pretty similar to the original First Avenger film, except this time they suspect Red Skull is on the train and want to capture him, but instead the train is full of explosives, and Steve Rogers gets exploded and falls into the ice.
Peggy, go! Get out of...
But unlike Bucky, who gets frozen and turned into the Winter Soldier originally, Steve is absolutely fine and is taken away along with the Hydra Stomper to the final act Hydra Castle. We don't see this happen, but it happens. So apparently the Hydra Stomper itself is indestructible in this fucking show. Turns out Howard Stark did mean it literally. It is actually fucking indestructible. It survives countless explosions, falling from a cliff into the snow and ice, plus being thrashed around by a giant tentacle creature. Must be that sweet, sweet, thick 1940s indestructible metal I've always heard about. And, oh, right, yeah, there's a giant interdimensional tentacle monster in the final battle, but don't worry about it, don't question it, okay? Like, seriously, it's cool, okay? Right, now, moving on. Let's get to the final act of this mess. So Peggy and the gang, and also no other platoons in the army going with them. I mean, come on, this castle is the main Hydra base where Red Skull is trying to open an interdimensional portal for some reason to achieve world domination. Maybe we should send in a fuck ton of soldiers to assist in this mission. No? Fine, moving on. So Red Skull activates the cube, opens a portal, and releases the giant fucking tentacle creature. So, this thing is the, quote, champion of Hydra that Red Skull will use to achieve world domination. Uh-huh. Yeah, okay. I've seen enough hentai to know where this is going. So of course, once released, the tentacles instantly grab Red Skull and crush him to death. Just, wow. Amazing. Fantastic. Incredible villain. His screen time was very well spent in this episode. So anyway, they now have to take on the tentacle demon and close the portal. Peggy orders Howard Stark to push some buttons on a console. Well, Actually, she accurately describes the scientific process to reverse the polarity or some such fiddle-faddle, while the genius scientist here can barely get his fucking words out.
If I can get to the controls, I might be able to transpose the ingress and do science stuff.
You mean transpose the polarity and reverse the suction?
Hey, being the genius is my thing.
You know, I think there might be a word for characters like this. So then eventually he does figure this out, of course, and Peggy's plan in the meantime, while the portal is closing and Steve Rogers flies in to help her, is to literally push the fucking thing back into the portal. This giant tentacle thing that can crush people to death and also manhandle the giant iron mech suit is being pushed away. But of course, stunning and brave Captain Carter overpowers this creature, with very little difficulty of course, and pushes it through the portal along with herself, because self-sacrifice, you know, there's no other way, blah blah blah. It's all very sad, and Steve is sad, and Peggy is sad. It's very sad. Be sad. Sad. So now we've finished this glorious first episode with Peggy some fucking how getting transported 70 years into the future and appearing through a portal in the same sequence that Loki appeared in the first Avengers film, with Nick Fury and Hawkeye standing there to greet her as she appears. So, since when in the bloody fuck hell has the Tesseract been a time travel device? So, in case you all needed any more evidence that the MCU writers and creators don't give a single shit about continuity and world building, they will flippantly change what the Infinity Stones can do to suit their own individual stories. Because fuck you. This isn't about the wider Marvel universe. This isn't about good writing. It's about spectacle. It's about making you clap like fucking seals at the pretty colours and the broad superficial elements like, oh, cool action scenes, and whoa, cool visuals, and ooh, Easter egg reference to another Marvel thing or comic book thing. I know that thing. I recognize it.
I understood that reference.
Well then, to summarize, that episode was rather dumb and super over the top, and not in a good way, considering the Marvel properties, for the most part, want you to take the events and the characters in these movies and shows seriously, despite it being practically impossible these days in the Phase 4 era of Marvel. You know, I always like to say this in terms of talking about animated media specifically. Just because something is animated does not mean it has to be a cartoon. On that note, thank you very much for watching. You know, I haven't fully decided if I'll be going through each of these what if episodes and making a video for each one, or possibly even reviewing multiple episodes in one video if there isn't too much to say on one episode on its own. I might watch them in my own time and then decide from there. And who the fuck knows, there may even be an episode I kind of, maybe, might think is actually good. Right?
The inner machinations of my mind are an enigma.
I'm TCAP. Goodbye.